Because what's up? We are back with Behind the Bikini, and we are on episode 96. We are almost at triple digits, which is amazing. So that's pretty crazy. We'll probably hit those once we get to our 2-year anniversary. So that's kind of cool. So with that, like, comment, subscribe, hit the buttons wherever they are. There you go. And we are going to do a Q&A today. So you guys sent in a bunch of questions yesterday. We're going to go through a bunch of them and just answer them to the best of our ability. We love these kinds of things too, because they help us to know what you want to hear about as well. So anytime you have questions for us, feel free to send them in, comments on the videos, send them to us on Instagram, whatever. We do, take those into consideration when we're doing topics and things like that for you too. But before we get into that, where are you coming in from this time?
I am in Tampa. I'm at Push right now, so I apologize if you guys hear background noise, and you'll probably see my staff coming in and out, but we're doing the best that we can today. We landed last night at 12:15 after a very delayed travel day, and I've been starting my appointment, so we're just kind of rolling right along here.
I love it. Well, I'm on my way there tonight, so I have an overnight flight. So I leave here at 11. So I get into Tampa at like 8 in the morning, I think.
Sweet. Yeah,
So pray for me.
The direct line. We were hoping we could work, but there was no Wi-Fi. So as soon as we got to the house last night, we had to work, and yeah, it was a lot, but we're here, we're doing it.
Well, that's what I said when I was looking at flights for myself, because I could have flown in earlier today, but I've got so much to do today. I was like, I've got my webinar later. I've got this, I've got clients. I'm like, I just can't. I'm like, I gotta wait. So it's a direct flight into Tampa, but it is overnight. So the problem with going to the East Coast is that you lose those 3 hours. So it's like you lose half a day when you're traveling to the East Coast. It's nice when you come back because you gain it, but on the way out there, that's when you need it. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I was like, oh, it is what it is. I'm hoping I'm flying Frontier, so I don't know. We'll see if I can sleep on the flight. But like, I've realized I fly Frontier and Spirit quite a bit because they go out of Vegas, and they're direct flights usually, and they're pretty cheap. But I've also realized that you have to upgrade your seats and things like that in order to be able to survive the flights. So I upgraded my seats and all that. So I'm not like killing myself.
On the bags, they get you on the seats.
They do.
The flight itself is cheap, and then you got to get all the add-ins to get that comfortability. So,
Right.
yeah.
So it does end up being about the same price at the end of the day. But like I said, I mean, I with the upgrades and stuff, it's not a big deal. But I can get those direct flights, which I can't get on most of the other airlines, which is crazy.
Yeah, directs are it. Yeah, so like usually from Arizona to Tampa, I take it's like a 3:50 p.m. flight out, which basically is 7 o'clock p.m. in Tampa. So, and that's my bedtime. So it's a lot. It's difficult.
Yeah.
Forth, East Coast, West Coast. So like even
Yeah.
from here, and for us, we go to Universe next week. We have to be there on Wednesday. So Sunday from St. Pete, we fly out of Tampa and we go right to New York, because there's no sense in coming back to the West Coast for 2 nights just to have to go home. So we're on the road for 10 days as of yesterday. So
Yeah, it's fun times. But at least, I mean, being home in Tampa, that was kind of nice because you get to see everybody, your family, your friends, all that kind of thing. Go back to the gym.
It's 50 for me. It depends. Florida's very triggering.
I understand that. I can get that. I can understand that. Yeah.
Are the host gym this weekend for this AP Pro-Am. So seeing all the athletes coming in right now is super, super cool. If you have an NPC or an IFBB Pro card, you're welcome to train here this weekend for free. So it's cool. We've seen a lot of the athletes that are coming in, and the Body Fusion athletes. So the energy in here is insane right now. The gym's slammed. It's awesome.
That's cool. I was going to ask you that. How close is it to the venue as far as your gym?
About 25 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah. It's for people that don't want to go to a commercial gym. That's always what push it. You're always going to drive for a boutique gym. So
yeah, I haven't been to your new location. I went to your old one.
Oh, you got to come. You got to come sign
the. But yeah, so I do want to go because I'm going down there. We're doing like a girls' weekend too. So Jamaica, which if you remember from CCTS, it's her birthday, so it's a big. There's 7 of us staying at a big, there's 7 of us staying at a big house down there, and we were talking about we definitely want to do a big gym trip kind of thing. So we'll have to go.
Yeah, you guys are more than welcome. Just make sure that you reach out to the staff ahead of time. I can give you that info.
Perfect. Awesome. Yeah, I do want to see the new location. I do need to train. So hey,
it works. There you go.
Yeah, we were talking about that. Like, I think the last podcast. So one of the girls, where I'm doing her makeup for the show, is letting me do everybody's makeup in her room at the host hotel. So I'm staying with the girls in the Airbnb. So that'll be fun. It's a really cool house. It's like very Instagrammable. It's got like the big like chessboard and stuff like that, big pool and all that kind of thing. So I'm like, oh, content.
Yeah, St. Pete and Tampa is kind of turning into that like area of everybody's buying up the house, or did a few years ago, buying up the houses and turning them into Airbnbs and those like cool Airbnbs and whatnot. It's a
Mhm.
content hub spot where people fly into just to like rent an Airbnb for a day and do content. So you guys should have
Yeah.
fun for sure.
I could totally see that, because people probably did move down there during Corona and all that kind of stuff. Like, as far as getting the houses and things like that down there. And now that you don't have to be there anymore, it's like, okay, well, what are we going to do with this place?
Yeah.
Let's rent it out.
Oh yeah, a lot of people moved here like during and after COVID for sure. Yeah.
We even talked about doing that with our house because we're not there all that much. So it's like, and the people that we would attract would be people that would be in the like the DC area for business or something like that. Even if we just did like the lower level of the house, because the whole lower level of the house is its own apartment. It's got a walkout basement. The only thing we would have to put down there is like a kitchenette, but there's bathroom, there's bedrooms, there's office space. I mean, like a whole house on that lower floor. So we were thinking about that. We're like, we could just really Airbnb out the bottom half of this house.
That's what we're trying to figure out what we're going to do with our house in Florida. Like that's where we went there last night, and because we haven't been in there in the last 14 months, there's been a long-term renter in there that just moved out. So we're trying to figure out if we're going to rent it out, if we're going to
Mhm.
Airbnb it. I would love to put a long-term renter in there. The last renter we had in there was amazing, but then we're like, are we going to sell it? Should we not? But we just bought the house. We bought the house in 2016, and it was just a steal, like an
Yeah.
absolute steal. We put the pool in a couple years ago. It's just got this gorgeous backyard. Like, I don't think I'll ever move back to Florida, but it doesn't make sense to necessarily sell it. It's such a wonderful house, and I travel back and forth so much. So yeah, it's hard. And then the management of it too with Airbnb. So we've done
Yes.
the pros and cons of both, and right now it's just sitting. So we'll see what we're gonna do. But that's kind of what we're here to, is kind of like looking through the house, what needs to be thrown away, what needs to be fixed up. So it's lots going on.
Well, we're kind of in the same boat with our house because again, we don't need it right now. Even if we're not going to completely ever move from Virginia, but we don't need that house. We're not there that much, and it's huge. So part of us is like, should we just sell it? But then like the property values are just increasing so much. It's like that's like my retirement fund sitting right there in the next like 5 to 10 years. You know what I mean? So it's like we're going back and forth in our head, the same thing. And then the concept of renting sounds good, but most renters suck. Most renters do not treat your property the way that you would. So there's always that push pull of do I risk it? So
And that's the difference between like a long-term renter and a short-term renter. Is a long-term renter is actually like living in the house, so
yes,
there's more stake in them taking care of it. Like Airbnb, they're there for 3 days. They don't care if they
right.
break something, they're leaving the next day. So if you actually care about the property, and like selling it right now doesn't make sense either, because the market, it's like the interest rates right now in Florida are like 6.9%. When I bought the house in 2016, I got it at 1.8%. Like
Wow.
it's nothing, so it's just
Wow.
it doesn't make sense financially, like to kind of make a move right now. It just really makes more sense to sit on it. So
I think in general the inventory is really high for real estate. So like there's no
especially in Florida,
pressure. Yeah, I'm
everybody
sure.
after those storms, the two back-to-back storms last
Uh,
year, everybody's trying to sell and get out, but nobody wants to buy. So
yeah.
it's this weird spot right now in the economy.
Yeah, somebody down the street from us in Virginia just sold their house, but it was under market value. And they literally sold it like last month, but it was under. I was like,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't want to do that either. It's
Yeah, it's
like,
like if you have the luxury of like not making a move, like it's
yeah.
better just to kind of sit on it. So
And there's just so many
yeah.
things. Like we've improved the house a lot since we moved in, but we still want to we want to improve the bathrooms, the upgrade the bathrooms, the kitchen, fix the driveway. The driveway's got that really big steep driveway. I want to fix that. That's a big thing. Oh, and just what was it, 2 months ago? One of the trees in the backyard fell over and hit the house. So now we have to have all of the siding and the gutter and everything replaced because it damaged. The good thing is like insurance will cover it, you know what I mean? But we have to have all of the siding and everything replaced on it now.
Being a homeowner, this is why I
I
now rent. It's
know.
so great. It's like something's broken. I just call someone and they come and fix
I
it.
just said
So
that my garbage disposal stopped working. I was like, oh, I'll call the maintenance to be up in 5 minutes. They'll fix it. You know what I mean? Anytime I
Yeah,
have
it's
an
just
issue, you're
hard
getting
right
my
now with
plus.
like our lifestyle. Like it's just like
Yeah.
owning a house doesn't make sense. I'm never there anyway. So like
Yeah.
having someone that I can call if something goes wrong is, you know, is a luxury for sure.
Yeah. No, absolutely. It's like, and like you said, like when you're not around, it's like, okay, why am I even bothering with this? Somebody else fix it for me, you
Fix
know?
it. Yeah,
Yep.
exactly. Totally.
So, so with that, how's your off season going right now?
Well, we just kind of started prepping for the
Oh, that's
Olympia.
right. That's right. That's
Just
right.
really loosely. I'm in a really good spot right now, so we're not really worried. Jamie and I kind of talked. We're on the same page of the exact look we want to bring because obviously this season it was very confusing what they want to kind of see out of me. So her and I have a game plan. I'm not going to share it specifically, but we're just going to definitely be bringing our own touch of our look that we like. So I'm excited for that. That there's a goal. We're on the same page. We know exactly what look that we're going to try to bring. So yeah, this week she really didn't change much. She was just like, hey, make sure you're tracking. Because I told you I was kind of loosely tracking here and there, and maintaining. So she's like, just make sure you're tracking 6 out of 7 days a week. Take your one free meal a week, and just kind of dialing in variables. So yeah, so I guess we're officially in prep, but
Yeah.
nothing's crazy yet. I've still been doing 30 minutes of cardio 5 days a week. And then that's been really, really nice with traveling because then on Fridays, or I'm sorry, Thursdays and Saturdays, Thursdays when I travel usually, and Saturdays when I'm at a show, I don't really have to do cardio. So that's been allowing me to kind of just really focus when season is so busy right now. So all's good. All's just kind of
Good.
cruising along right now. How about you?
Yeah, I'm just the same thing. I'm cruising. I'm still at like the 3,000 calories. She does give me flex meals. I think it's 500. I don't even know because I don't take it. She tells me I flex calories every week and I don't ever use them. So it's like when you have 3,000 calories to eat, you don't really need flex meals. So,
Yeah.
but I was like, I told her I checked in this week. I was like, I'm going to be, doing this little girls weekend this weekend. So I'm assuming I'm not going to be 100% on my macros as I want to have fun, all that kind of stuff. So I'm not really concerned about it. I'm like, I'm just maintaining weight. Like I told you yesterday, I sent you my update on my glute progress over the last 2 months. So I have put on about 5 pounds, but it's really like solid 5 pounds over the last 2 months. And really, I mean, the only thing that's changed, she's increased my food over the last couple of months, but really the main thing that's changed has been my training. That's it. But for the longest time, I told you I felt like I was just kind of treading water from like my last show in December up until I saw you guys in April. So the amount of progress that I've made from April to now is just ridiculous. It's just absolutely ridiculous. So, and it's solid weight. It's not like, and that's why I said I was like, I don't mind the scale going up. And you had this post yesterday. I said I don't mind the scale going up as long as it's solid, good weight. I can tell the difference between that and inflammation. So I'm just cruising along. I mean, nothing crazy, nothing out of the ordinary. I am pretty hungry a lot, which is interesting being on 3,000 calories. But that's my body just telling me. I guess I'm training hard enough. You know what I mean? So that's something I tell my clients a lot. I'm like, if you're not hungry and you're not training hard enough, there's something off. You know what I mean? So I think that's a good indication too. I mean, clearly the progress is happening and all of that too. So I'm curious to see how this all kind of plays out in the next year, just seeing how much progress I've made in the last couple of months. Like it's just, I said, it's just like, it's been ridiculous in the last 2 months in comparison. I'm like, where did this come from? Like, I really don't know where this came from. And where has it been for the last 20 years I've been doing this shit? You know what I mean?
Totally. Yeah.
So
Those assessments change lives, that's for
yeah.
sure.
Yeah. Well, and I think also it's just like it's one of those things where we've always had that mentality of more is more as far as training is concerned, and that's just not the case. I'm only training 3 days a week. I do like Pilates and core workouts the rest of the time, and that's it. And I train lower body 3 times. I have a leg day and 2 glute days, and that's it. And
Yeah.
like the progress is ridiculous. And I think people forget that recovery is where the growth happens. It's like you've got to give your body a chance to actually build back better. If you're always tearing it down, it's never going to build back better. So, I mean, I'm a perfect living example of that. So, if y'all are worried about like bringing your training down a couple of days a week, look at me.
Don't.
I mean, it's just crazy. It's just crazy. And I get it
Yeah.
all the time. I still, again, I still look muscular. I got it yesterday. I was walking down Fremont Street and somebody called me a muscle mommy. I was walking down Fremont Street yesterday. So I still look the part. But it's like you have to get past that mental block of you have to train every single day in order to see progress, which is not the case.
Yeah, no, I was literally just talking about this with Kelly, my best friend, this morning when I was getting my hair done, is saying like more is not more. And I think that we
Right.
get into those tendencies as an athlete because I don't know, culture, I guess, like
Yeah.
more has to be better,
That's
right?
right.
More is definitely better than less. And
Yep.
it's just not, we're in a society where it's like that's what her and I were talking about is she's definitely the type of person that just like cannot sit down, and she's learning how to like slow down a little bit more in our old age is what we were calling it. And she's, trying to find like that stillness, and we tell ourselves, 5, 10 years ago when her and I were both like building our businesses together, like, the grind and like waking up so early and like never stopping, and it was like a badge of honor. And it's like now
Yes.
it's not like
That's right.
being that tired and being that stressed and having to consume that much caffeine in order to survive is not a badge of honor at all.
Right.
What is life? Where is life? So it's cool to see her and kind of how we're all transforming as we get older and kind of learning that concept, especially, as, bodybuilding, and where does that look like in our lives in a couple of years. It's really just kind of trying to find like that middle ground, that, that transitional piece, if you will.
Absolutely. I literally just had this conversation with one of my clients this week because every time she checks in with me, it's she's stressed about this or that or the other thing. And I said, listen, I said, every time you check in, we're a little off. And the reason why is because of outside stressors throwing you off. I said, what I see is I see a girl who's putting in work for things that are not returning anything to her. You know what I mean? I'm like, at some point, and she's my age, at some point you got to realize you got to live your life too. It's not about like, okay, what's next, 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 next. Like sometimes you got to sit back and be like, okay, I actually have to live this, And I said that I had to make those decisions. I mean, there's a reason why I'm not doing CCTS this year. As much as I love that event, it was a all year event that stressed me out all year long, and I had to make that decision. Like I had to pull back and say, listen, this is just not worth the amount of anxiety and stress that I go through all year. As much as I love the event, I said, there's something's got to give, and you got to sit back and realize like your personal life does matter outside of just freaking the grind. Like you said, it's like it's one thing to try to get better, 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 but like at what point do you actually sit back and enjoy it, right? And like for me,
Yeah.
like CCTS was always like I enjoyed the weekend, but everything leading up into it, I fucking hated it. You know what I mean?
Stress.
Yeah, really stressful, really, really stressful.
Yeah, and it's like we're in this time of life too where like Drew and I, like, we try to take a vacation and like we feel guilty taking a
Yes,
vacation. You
yes,
feel like you're abandoning your clients. And I know my team, and I know like if I ask for a week off, they say it with grace and be like, "Yes, please, like take
yep.
the time off." But it's like that's the story we tell ourselves of like we can't take a break and people need us, and why would we do that? But burnout is real, like burnout is real, especially, in our line of career. And, by the time the end of August comes around and I finally get one weekend off, like I'm going to need that weekend off. I'm going to be
Yeah.
burnt out, so it's just important to kind of know your limits and making sure that you're setting those boundaries and taking off a week or 2 days or whatever it looks like. The world is going to be right there when you get back, and it's going to be okay. And, just making sure you communicate that, with the people
Yep.
around you when you need it.
And one thing I get, I just actually talked about this in my check-in this week. Like, many of my clients have to freeze or cancel right now because they can't afford it. Right? It's just the economy's hurting people, and it just is what it is. They can't compete. They can't afford coaches. They can't afford the luxuries, and that's completely understandable. Um, and I sit back sometimes. I think, I pour so much effort into my clients and stuff, and they know that. And this is nothing. This is not a slight against them when I say this. Like, but I'm one of the first things to go when times get tight. You know what I mean? And I understand that. I'm a luxury. I'm not. I'm not something you absolutely have to have every single day. So I get that. So sometimes you have to sit back and realize, well, I'm a luxury to them, but to me, I'm not. Like I have to take care of me first, right? Like I'm the priority, right? As much as I love my clients, I'm more important, and you have to think about that sometimes too. And it's just been a stark reality of seeing that the last couple of years where people are really starting to struggle. And it's like you do have to realize as much as you want to help them, you have to help yourself first. It's always that concept of you can't pour from an empty cup. So you have to remember you come first and then they come second. Because at the end of the day, with them, we come second, they come first, which is that's how it should be.
Yeah. Yeah. I always say though, if I ever go broke, Jamie is not one of the first things that would be canceled. I would figure out something else, but I think
Oh,
that
same.
that also goes to, I don't know, the goal, I guess,
Yeah.
especially like lifestyle coaching. Like if I was lifestyle coaching, yeah, it would probably be the first thing to go. But it just
Yeah.
depends on what you're doing, and
Yeah.
it's very difficult right now. There's a lot of people that are in financial turmoil. The economy's changing. I literally just had an athlete that checked in with me. She's like, "Hey, I know I told you I was, picking up this new job, but I actually ended up declining it because I don't love it. But
Yeah.
it's okay. I don't have a job right now, but I have a goose egg for about 6 months, and she's young." And I was like, I'm really proud of you. Like, number one,
Yeah.
for having a goose egg to not have to
Yeah.
work for 6 months, and she's in prep, like, and she's built herself, like, to be able to have that flexibility. Like, I wouldn't have done that in my mid 20s. And
Yep.
number two, like, not just taking a job just to say that you had a job. She's like, I know it's not the right job for me. I don't want to invest and take somebody else's position that might really want or need this job when
Yeah.
I know that my heart's not 100% it. And I was like, that's growth. Like
Mhm.
I was extremely impressed by that. But it's true. People are really struggling right now, especially
Yeah.
the big companies. They're really cracking down. There's a lot of layoffs that are going on. I know for Google specifically, Nikki worked for Google. Like they're really cracking down on like where people need to be and when because they want to fire people.
That's
So
right.
it's be careful out there, everybody. Job security.
Well, we say it all the time. I've said this 1,000 times. There's nothing safe out there anymore. There's just not. So it's like you might as well go after what you really want because even if taking the safe job is not safe anymore, that that whole concept of being at a job for 40 years and then retiring, the 9 to 5 thing, that doesn't happen anymore. People, that does not happen. So if you're going to spend time working, you might as well work at what you love doing. You know what I mean? So take the risk, jump in because even if you don't, you still can be fired. You still can lose everything. So, you might as well at least lose everything doing what you enjoy, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like do something you enjoy. Like that's it at the end of the day. It's like there's so many people that have told me like just hate my job. I hate what I'm doing, but it's a job and it's like okay, but at
Yep.
the end of the day then you can't complain about it because
Right.
you are not a victim, you are a participant to that. And it's okay to keep your job and look for other options, but like don't just tell yourself this is the only job out there. A job's hard to come by right now. Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely. But I also really believe in our behind the bikini gang. And I know that all of you are very smart, intelligent
Yeah.
women. And if you want something, you will go out there and find it and get it and
100%.
change the course of your trajectory for sure.
Absolutely. And you just have to make a plan, just sit down and figure, like, just write out how you're going to do it. I just had this conversation again with a client yesterday because she's lacking consistency with everything. I said, I need you to just sit down and write out everything, like just brain dump why this isn't happening for you because we have to find a solution for it. I said, every week we're getting the same check-in in. I said, you're not hitting on stuff. So we've got to figure out the root cause. You've got to make a plan. So little things have been tweaked. She started using a meal prep company so she could get her macros in, things like that. You know what I mean? So we got to find the root of the problem so that we can get you where you need to be.
100%.
So,
100%.
so with that, let's move over to questions. You've got a bunch of them there. Let's pull up one of my questions that came in.
All
I'd
right,
just like to take a
perfect.
moment to welcome our new channel partners, Prozis. If you're unfamiliar with them, go ahead and go down into my description box now, click on the link, go check out their site. They are the leading supplement sports nutrition company based out of Portugal, been around for 17 years. You might be asking what makes Prozis unique? Well, everything that they make is made in-house or with trusted partners. They have to go through rigorous testing in Portugal in order to even get any products on the market. So what you're going to find really high quality, pure supplementation. And one of the biggest things for me is I have some GI issues. So being able to eat some of these more healthy protein treats and things like that and not have any gut issues, worth its weight in gold. Go check them out. Click on the link in my description box below. Use the code Cuties10 to get all of your discounts and even some special surprises. They're always putting out some amazing promotions. Let them know that I sent you and let me know what you think. Thanks again for watching and thank you for supporting our channel. Now, go optimize your own athletic abilities and check out Prozis.com.
That came in.
All right, perfect. So let's just do first one. NPC Junior Nats. This one is definitely for you, Sean.
Okay.
Fit model criteria evolution. So I'm
Yep.
assuming they mean NPC Junior USA to Junior Nats, maybe, or I
Yep.
don't know how you take that, but that's literally what it says. NPC Junior Nats and Fit model criteria evolution.
So I think if I'm interpreting that question, I'm thinking, okay, what do I think of the evolution so far of the criteria from the last two shows? I liked this. I liked Junior Nationals results better than Junior USA. Um, I talked about this on my live feed last night, but I think part of this is also because we are seeing better competitors come out too and more. Junior Nationals was bigger as far as the number of competitors that were in it versus Junior USA. So I think that's only going to get better as we go. And I think we're going to see people coming in looking more towards the criteria at this point. I think initially, especially Junior USA, we had nothing to show us what the criteria was, right? So as much as I wasn't happy with that result as far as the overall winner there, I mean, I still understand it because she was the best of what showed up, But going into junior nationals, we talked about this. Lauren, my sponsored athlete, Jamie's athlete there, did win the overall. And to me, she was basically in a league of her own. I felt like there was nobody else on that stage that really even came close to her, which was actually a detriment to her. She was actually too good. She almost missed winning the overall based on the feedback that they got because her glutes were too good. That was the main thing. And I said that even when I saw her photos after prejudging, I said, if anything is going to make her miss her pro card, it's because she almost has hamstring tie-ins. She almost was at the criteria level as far as conditioning was concerned for bikini. Not quite, but almost. And as we talked about for junior USAs, I would rather they go for under versus over. So so she made a few adjustments. They got feedback from the judges, made a few adjustments between prejudging and finals, and she just basically went on stage and just stood there at finals and did not pose in her back pose, so her glutes looked worse. To make herself, she didn't pump, she didn't do any of those kinds of things to make her glutes just kind of just be there. And that's what did it as far as making her hit the overall. Now, we also talked about this in the coaching call too, is that if judges tell us what they want, we'll deliver it, right? Because that's exactly what they did at that show, right? They delivered because the judges said, she's almost too good for this. You know what I mean? So if you tell us what you want, we'll do it. So that was actually, I think that's starting to get across. Like, if you guys can give us a target to hit, we'll hit the target, but sometimes the judging feedback is just so vague. We just have to kind of guess. So I think maybe going forward, they will be a little bit more direct about what they want for the criteria for the fit model. I hope they are, because clearly Lauren was a product of that. As soon as you're direct about it, you get what you want, right? So I think they're going to be very strict going forward about, and I'm hoping they're going to be very strict going forward about not going over the line with muscularity and conditioning and all of that, which is good. That needs to happen. So we'll see.
Which, to
what
be
happens.
fair, that's why they were so conscious about the
Correct.
overall. They
Yep.
did not want they didn't want to screw it up.
Correct. Yes.
So when we heard that feedback, we were like, oh, okay, that's easy. Now you gave us the flagpole, now we're going to hit it. Right.
Exactly.
So it's like, in prejudging, she had pumped up and she was arched in her back pose. Yep. And then for the finals, we didn't have her pump and we just told her to stand there. And so they were like, wow, what'd you do? And we were like, literally nothing. We had her do nothing. Right. So it's interesting. Just like Sean said, like I was at both shows. So like Junior USA's, like the competition there was not as strong in the fit model category. Right. And then at Junior Nats, while Lauren was the front runner in many ways, most of the bodies on stage were very fit model-esque in my opinion. So that made the competition with the fit model division more competitive in that way. And this is natural to see throughout the year. Junior USA's is typically a smaller show with smaller athletes because it's so early on in the season. And then as the season ramps up, Junior Nats and then goes into, Universe next week. And then, we got all these national shows coming up, and it's more of the girls are going to come out knowing that they have a smaller window of time that they can compete in. So yes. It will be interesting to see, I think especially North Americans, right? North Americans is always the biggest show. It's the biggest number of pro cards. Really, once we get through North Americans, I think we're going to have a very definitive line of where this is going in the amateurs, and we're just getting better and better every show with that, just like we thought and we predicted. Yeah, and I think too, going back to, I think we see this in the other divisions too. It's almost like some girls turn pro and they can jump right onto the pro stage, and then some girls need an off season before they're ready to go into the pro stage. I think Lauren right now is ready for the pro stage. You know what I mean? In fit model. Unfortunately, there is no pro stage until next year, which sucks. But she's that person you can look at and I can say she could be the standard on the pro level, right?
So that's why I say also she was kind of in a league of her own, because she's standing next to girls who are competitive at the national level, whereas I feel like she's going to be competitive in the pro level. So that's my 2 cents on that whole situation there too.
Yeah, I agree with that. I remember like when I was going through my first couple of years of trying to turn pro, like the feedback was like, you're almost too good. So like once
Yes.
you get pro, you're going to be great, but it's just going
Yep.
to be getting you to the pro card. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense because
Yeah.
shouldn't you be awarding the person that looks most like a pro? That's it. But now I totally get it from like a
Yeah.
coaching perspective. Now that I've been here for so long, if you're an outlier is never good. So,
That's right.
so yeah,
Yep.
that's kind of that's why I wanted Sean to take over that one.
Yeah. Well, and that's a perfect example right there. We talk about all the time, apples versus oranges. If you got a bunch of apples and one orange, that orange is going to stick out no matter how good that orange is. You know what I mean? Is that's not a good thing in the sport of bodybuilding. You don't want to stick out like that.
Yeah. A lot of people obviously are doing nationals. We got a lot of nationals questions. So let's just keep rolling with nationals
Okay.
questions. So this one is thoughts on girls winning their pro cards in multiple divisions at the same national show.
I mean, if they want to pay the entry fee, then have at it. You know,
That's what I think too.
yeah. I mean, going back to what we were just saying, just because they win a pro card in that division doesn't mean they're going to be competitive on the pro level in that division. You know,
Yeah.
it changes once you get there. There's lots of different factors that come into play. When we're talking about like any division, really, we got height classes in the amateurs. You don't have height classes when you get to the pros. So for a lot of these divisions, like figure, women's physique, things like that, you've got one or two competitors in each class. So just because you win that class and you win your pro card does not mean you're going to be competitive when you get up to the pro league, because there just may not have been anybody else that showed up. So I've seen that happen several times where girls have won their pro card in both figure and in women's physique. That happens a lot. They can win overalls in both. I've seen that happen. But again, that doesn't mean they're going to be competitive as soon as they step on the pro stage. A lot of times what happens is they're a tweener and they don't know which direction to go, so they have to decide, am I going to keep going up towards women's physique, or am I going to, tone everything down and come down to figure, that kind of thing. So it's usually, if that happens, it's usually not a good thing going into the pro league, because you're just kind of like, okay, what do I do now? So I have no problem with winning multiple pro cards. Again, it's a different class every time you get up there, different set of competitors every time you get up there. If you win against them, you win against them, period. You're the best that day.
Yeah, I mean, the first person that I thought of when I was reading this question is Amanda, and I don't know how to say her last name. I think it's Caruzzo. It's Keon Prodigy's girlfriend. She's
Yes.
amazing.
Exactly what I was thinking of too.
Yeah,
Yes.
when she won her pro card, I believe it was the 2022 nationals. She
Yep.
won her pro card in both figure and women's physique, and won the overall in I believe figure.
Yep.
And she literally came out in both classes, and it was a very clear winner on that day, right? And I think maybe this person comes from with this question of like a curiosity of like, well, maybe she's taking a pro card from like another athlete, you know what I mean? But here's the thing, like, be better then.
Right.
Like it's gonna
if
be
you didn't win,
awarded.
you're not good enough. Period. That's it.
Right. Like that you don't just sorry, you don't deserve that pro card anyway, right? So it's like be better. Something else that comes to mind is Zoe, Jamie's athlete that just turned pro this past weekend, and she competed in figure and women's physique. She ended up getting the pro card in women's physique and was one spot away in figure. She's actually now on the pro league, and she's not going to do either of those divisions. She's a natural athlete. She is very strong about that. We know how big these classes get in the pro level. She's going to pick a different class to compete in the pro league. That's her news to share. So I'm going to leave it at that. But it's like, it doesn't matter at the end of the day. I think anybody, if you're between classes too, like the only way to really know where you kind of end up is by competing in both classes.
Right.
There's plenty of women that compete in both classes and don't get a pro card in either, and go pro in one, and they're like, this is definitely your division. You don't really know till you know. So I love it. I think if you can and have the ability to compete in multiple classes, or as many classes you can, great. I mean, Heather Bailey, who owns Premier Alternative Medicine, the day she turned pro, took 3 pro cards home, right? So it's just be the best that day, and then you don't got to worry about it.
And I agree. I completely agree. And I think also, I don't know if this person meant it this way, but I hear it a lot. Like you just said, are you taking away a pro card from somebody else? It's like, no, because they didn't deserve it anyway. You know what I mean? Like, it is what it is. Everybody paid their dues. They qualified. They paid their entry fees to be there. So everybody deserves to be there. You just have to be better than them. That's it. It's kind of that same thing that we go back and forth with Ashley and the pro league, Ashley Kaltwasser, like, well, beat her. I mean, what else are you gonna do? Like, beat her. I don't know what else to tell you. She's allowed to compete as much as she wants. beat her, be better than her. That's it. That's all you can do. So
she is beatable too. I mean,
oh,
there's good
100%.
people that beat her, and I
Yep.
don't mind Ashley competing. I think that I mean, there's almost 60 girls on the bikini
Yep.
list for this year, and we still have a few months left.
Well, and a
So
great attitude was your athlete there, Nikki. She was like, when I was doing her makeup for Nevada. I always say it wrong. Yeah,
me too. And
yeah,
we're
Nevada.
getting
It's
called
Nevada. I'm
out
like, wait, because we were
from
on the
our
coaching call
Las
yesterday. I'm
Vegas
like,
people. Yeah.
Nevada. Yeah, it's I know it's
I think
Nevada.
it's
It is because
Nevada.
it's Nevada. I got it.
You
Okay,
live
so
there now. You gotta figure
I
that
know I have to
out.
get it right now. We were literally doing this on the coaching call all day yesterday. Anyway, so Nevada State, Nikki wanted Ashley to do it because typically Ashley does it. She's like, I want to stand next to her because she's the standard. She's like, I want to be next, and Ashley didn't compete. So I was like, Nikki had the right attitude. She's like, I want to be next to Ashley because I know she's going to be a top 3 Olympian. She always is. So I want to be next to her and compared to her, right? That's
Yeah.
that's the champion mindset versus, oh shit, Ashley's doing the show. I'm not
She
going to
got
win.
that from me. I'm just kidding. But yeah, she like hears me say that all the time. Like I
Yeah.
don't necessarily want to be the best that day. I want to be compared against the best. That way I know how I can keep improving, right? Like I want to be standing next to them so that I know where my holes are, like
Yep.
where am I going to fill in so that I can be in those top spots. I think people
Mhm.
are so afraid of getting up next to these top Olympians, but like how are you gonna get better? Like
Right.
people look completely different than they do on social media. Like everybody looks really good individually, but it's really when you're in that comparison that you start to see the holes of your physique. So yeah, bring it on. More people the better.
That's right.
Like let's go. That's how you get better.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. 100%. All right.
All
Next
right.
question.
Unlocking your stage alter ego. How do you go from gym rat to glam girl? This is from one of my posing clients. So basically what we were talking about is like in our world, most of us love lifting weights, and lifting weights is not graceful, it's not finesse, it's not soft, right? And posing is the exact opposite. So I was reading another girl's post this morning who was talking about this, and she was like, I'm a button pusher. So my thing has always been like with posing, like trying to find like the soft and the finesse. So the what I said is in years ago this happened where I started competing and I like got my extensions in and my jewelry on, and I naturally am like a very shy person. Like stepping on stage in a 2-piece bikini in front of the world is not necessarily something that I would have done, before this process. So, Drew off the bat, like he's like, you need to find an alter ego. Like you need to like find your actress or your name. So we came up with, or he did, with Capri. So like when I'm getting ready on show morning, Drew calls me Capri, and how's Capri doing today? Are we ready to, sexy it up and things like that. So I was, kind of talking to her about like finding that alter ego. And like at the end of the day, when you're on stage, you are doing a performance, right? So you have to think of yourself as like an actress. I was just listening to a podcast with Carrie Bradshaw with Sex and the City, and she was talking about how hard it was for her when she was doing the filming all the time of like, showing up on set, being Carrie Bradshaw, and then going home and being herself. Like it's very hard when you're so much in that environment, like really like leaning into that role. And that's really what you have to do when you're on stage. Something else too is like literally just like we program arm movements, hair flips, and things like that. Program your facial movements. For her specifically, this athlete, it's the facial movement of like the harshness and the seriousness, which some people do really well with, and others look like they're smelling something weird on stage or they're pissed and not having a good time, and it's not a good look. So my encouragement is always to go watch pros, like go on Giltgo's page and look at all the individual routines from the bikini girls and literally watch their facials and like how they're transitioning and adding a facial thing in, and then literally like writing that down and like, okay, when I put my hand here, I look down, I smirk, when I look up, I smile, like literally programming it into your routine so that it's a routine at the end of the day. Yeah.
Yes. I agree with all of that. And the only way you do it is through practice. Like that's what's going to make you confident on stage. It's funny you're saying facial movements. I just thought about this client that I had years ago. She switched over to a different coach. And oh my God, like she made these like open mouth sex faces on stage. And I'm like, why is he not telling her to stop doing that? It looks so bad. Literally everybody would make fun of that. It's like, you got to record yourself doing this shit because it looks so fucking bad. Like, oh my God.
I will say, like, the majority of the time when an athlete opens their mouth, like,
yeah,
it's talked about in a negative
so,
way.
Yes,
So if
so
you're
bad.
someone that like sees that from a pro and you're like, oh, maybe that I wouldn't.
Yes. I
Yeah.
think what happens, I don't know if they just think of that they have to be sexy or whatever, but what I find to be good as far as like outside of our industry to look at is pageantry. I think some people watch like runway, like Victoria's Secret runway, which they're way over the top, and I don't think you should be watching that to get your persona. But if you watch pageantry, they're always really classy and graceful and powerful and all of those things at the same time, like the Miss Universe and things like that. They're never over the top sexually. They're never over the top with anything like that. They're very fluid and classy. Those, for me, I just did this. Like when I checked in yesterday, the day before, I went through some old pageant coaching stuff that I had done before, and I was like, oh, I forgot about that. Oh, I forgot about that. So I started incorporating that into my routine, and all of a sudden my routine it felt so much better. And I was like, oh, because I forgot how to fucking move like that. You know what I mean? But that's, I think looking at pageantry is better than looking at, like I said, like the Miami Swim Week kind of stuff. You know what I mean? They both have their place, but that's not what you want to do on the bikini stage. And having an alter ego is a great option. I always tell people that Beyonce has her Sasha Fierce. You got to find your Sasha Fierce. So whatever that may be, and then you need to practice it. Like you said, you need to practice it every movement. I had a girl who's posing from Vietnam yesterday, and she looks phenomenal. First time competitor. But there was just a few little movements, and she said, this just feels a little bit wonky or whatever. I was like, well, it's your hand movement. Like, let's get rid of that and like just bring it down. And as soon as we did that, I was like, oh my God, it looks so much better. Just little things like that. She couldn't figure it out. She couldn't figure out what it was that was wrong. I, looking at it with a fresh set of eyes, is like, it's that. So as soon as we got rid of it, she's like, oh my God, that's so much better, that kind of thing. Find somebody that has an eye like that can tell you those things too, because sometimes you just know it's not right, but you don't know how to fix it either. So having somebody you can bounce that stuff off of, your posing coach, that is imperative in my opinion. And then you feel really confident in what you're doing. And then that comes across on stage as that persona that you're looking for.
Totally. I tell people that too. Like practicing is what builds the confidence, because when you practice something, you become proficient at it. And then what are you nervous about then when you step on stage? I mean, obviously like the stage nerves and things like that, but so many people get so worried about like the routine, how they're going to execute it. And obviously being on stage and a bunch of judges that are staring up at you and your family and friends is extremely intimidating,
Yep.
And something that I really challenged myself this year was, with the Arnold. And, I knew no matter what, I was stepping on a big stage with, hundreds of people in front of me. And I literally timed like the steps and the hand movements, and I had like a cadence in my mind. I watched the night before when, the other girls were on stage, like how many steps it was going to be from the back of the stage to the box. I knew it was going to be 16 steps, which is a lot more than I was literally everything. So then by the time my heel hit that stage, I felt prepared. I had already studied it. I had already known it. So I think too many people pose too late, and then that's what gives them that lack of confidence. So if there's anybody that ever asks me, like, when do I need to start posing? Like today,
Now.
start posing. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be beautiful, but start practicing the basics now. And the development of the routine will come as you grow muscle and as you watch pros that you like, and as you find the things that you like. It will just keep developing. My posing routine is never the same from when I first started. It's changing all the time. It's an evolution.
Yep. And I think that also helps you just to visualize the finished product too. Like I was saying, like I was doing my posing just yesterday, and I'm not going to get on stage for another year at least. You know what I mean? Like can't with fit model, So, but
I know
still,
it's so hard. It's like,
it,
congrats. What are you going to do? Oh, you're going into off season.
Right. Yeah. You are absolutely going to off season right now because there's no options available.
There's nothing for you to do.
Yeah. So it's like, at some point it's like, okay, well, you got to have something to keep you engaged in it. And for me, the posing keeps me engaged in it. And just, seeing again, your body, like we just talked about, my body's evolved so much in the last 2 months. Your body evolves. So your posing's going to evolve with it. So the more that you do it, the more you're going to see things pop out about your physique that you like and things you don't. And those are the things that keep you, again, kind of married to the sport, married to your goal, right?
Grounded in the goal, for sure.
Absolutely.
Sure. That actually segues us into one of the questions, which was, so for people that are coming out of prep right now, we're going to start seeing this, right? As people are getting on the national stages and being told to grow and things like that. And we've talked about this a little bit on the podcast too. It's like, goal setting. So like going into a long-term improvement season, we all struggle with this. The show is over. There's no date in sight. We know that we're being off stage for at least a year. How do we set realistic goals to stay on track, to make sure that we're making progress and assess that progress?
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's my goal shifts to more health related, and also just optimizing myself so that when I do go into prep again, it's not going to be taxing on my body, right? I mean, part of me is like, why do I need 3,000 calories a day right now? I could definitely survive on less, but I know that's going to help me when I go into prep next time. Another part of me is like, why do I need to do no cardio and 5,000 steps a day right now? Because it's going to help me when I get back into prep again. So my goals now are always to get my body into a better position to be in prep again next. So whatever that may be, your hormone levels, your food intake, your cardio, your training, whatever it might be, as far as your goals when you're off season, also getting stronger. I try to bump up on my weights at least once a month kind of thing. We always are doing the time under tension, increasing the intensity, whatever it may be. So I'm trying to build on that to get stronger too, not just build the body, but also get stronger and healthier. So for me, my goals kind of shift a little bit to, what is going to make me better, like just as a person, healthier. But it's also going to what's going to make next prep easier, so I don't have to freaking kill myself to get on stage every time.
Yeah, and I think that the biggest thing that sets you up for success that way is obviously your reverse diet, which
Yeah.
is extremely difficult. I
Yeah.
say all the time, I think prep is easy, compared to reversing. I think building and reversing is the hardest part of this sport. Prep in a way is easy. You're just slashing calories, you're doing more cardio, and you're getting lean, but there's a discipline with that because you're seeing progress, you're getting lean, you're seeing the amount of muscle tissue, and in off season it goes opposite. So the very first thing I would say is set yourself up for success with your reverse. I tell you guys too all the time, like put that date on the calendar 8 to 10 weeks out from that show, because that is the time where your body is the most sensitive. So buckle down mentally. Saturday after the show, go enjoy your free meal. Sunday, go enjoy a couple of intuitive eating days. By Tuesday, you are back on your plan at 100%, and you are putting that date on the calendar 8 to 10 weeks, and you know that you are basically prep still until that date. And that gets you out of the danger zone. If you can make it to that 8 to 10 week mark, man, you're going to have a really fun off season. You feel good. You're still lean. Food is up. Cardio is low. And it's, like I said before, it's taken me several off seasons to understand that. And then when I got to that point, I'm like, wow, I'm so glad I did this. Like the food and the meals that I've said no to over the last 8 weeks, it doesn't matter, because now I can do those things and not have repercussions.
Correct.
So that would be the first thing, is, the reverse diet. And then as far as, tracking progress in the off season, something that somebody said to me years ago was, if you're getting bored in your training, because of course we do progressive overload. So we, do the same workouts over and over and over again. And, the people are like, I'm bored. I would argue then that you're not having fun training. You're not really progressive
You're not
overloading. So
focusing.
a really good way to know if you're making progress is to really focus on your progressive overload when you're in the gym, really challenging yourself before you even step foot in the gym, of writing your workout out and setting that intention for the workout of how you want to be better, where you want to push yourself, where you want to see those PRs, and setting that intention before you even walk in the gym is crucial. I think so many people in this sport, especially in the amateurs, they just expect to walk into the gym mindlessly and hope that they're going to give 100% that day. That's like walking into work and just I have no plan today, but I'm going to be really efficient.
Yep.
No, that's not going to happen. So how can we be efficient, and how can we track progress? Number one is through your training and your logbook. And then number two, I think, is, again, setting yourself up in a position with your body composition so that you can continue to see lines and
100%.
progress in your physique. If you put on too much body fat, are you making gains? Yeah, of course you are. You're growing, but it's really hard to see it. So then it's really hard for you to kind of stay committed to that. Something that we talked about as well is photo shoots and, boudoir shoots and vacations, obviously in the off season, trying to put that as a goal and, staying on top of it. But at the end of the day, we could talk about all of these things that we think are going to make us stay better on track. But really what it comes down to is right here between the ears, if it means something to you, and, there's so much information out there now of why it's important to handle your off season in a very specific way to stay healthy and look a certain way. If it means something to you, you're going to figure out a way to do it. And the only way that you're going to know what works for you doesn't is trial and error.
That's right. And perfect example of that is, I still record myself doing all my exercises. I don't send them to Drew anymore because now I've got my form, but I do record myself to check myself, and also to see if if I'm improving on my form as well, because you can always improve. Every time you record yourself, you can see
Always.
something, you know?
Always.
So I always record myself. I've been told I'm a form queen now, which is great. I'm happy with that. I'm good with that. Nobody sees every single video that I do, but I do, you know, and I can make those changes and improve how I'm executing my training all the time too, which just goes back to probably why I'm still hungry at 3,000 calories.
And I think too, and
So
I think too, it's you taking responsibility as an athlete. You
that's
know what I
right.
mean? Like our coaches are not meant to hold our hands
That's right.
every day. Our coaches are not meant for that. And I could say this as a coach myself and what I expect out of Jamie. I do not expect Jamie to hold my hand and take me to the gym and ensure that I get what's done.
That's right.
Her job is to give me the plan, and my job is to execute the plan to the fullest potential. And if we're talking to athletes now that are at the highest level, that are at the pro level, or trying to become a professional, this is not something that we should have to explain to you guys. You know, we talk
Yep.
about football players all the time. Their coach isn't calling them on practice day going, are you going to show up to practice and do your recovery 30 minutes before and make sure you're a professional athlete. You're going to show up and do it because you know that's what you need to be doing. So
Right.
this goes back to taking responsibility as an athlete and really understanding what is your responsibility and what your coach's is, you know, and making sure that you step up as an athlete to that you need to be taking notes for yourself. You should be
Yes.
continuing to track your own training, even if your coach does not want to look at it. You should be getting blood work done, even if your coach is not asking for it. That's a red flag. But you know what I'm saying? Like you know what needs to be done if you're at this highest level.
Well, I think also on a segue in that too is controlling your environment too. I know for a lot of people, the gym is a social place. If you're going in there to work, you're not social at work, right? You're there to work. So, you know, go to the gym with people that you know are going to keep you focused, and avoid people that are not, that are going to take that focus away from you, right? So I know some people focus better when they train at home. Some people focus better when they train in a big gym. Just whatever it is, find your focus so that you can really zone in, because during this off season, your improvement season is where you make that progress, and anything like that in your environment can either help you or hinder you. So be really aware of that, because I get that a lot. My client check-ins, they're like, oh, my workout took so long. Well, what did you do in between your sets? You went and talked to people the whole time. So that's why it took so long. It shouldn't take that long, you know?
Yep. Yep.
So things like that.
Yeah. Dialing it in. Staying focused.
That's right.
All right. So mindset around hunger. I am starving. I am 5 weeks out.
Drink more water.
5 week out, freak out.
Right? 5 week out, freak out, right? I mean, this is part of it. Like, and this goes back to what we just talked about with having a productive off season. Because if you set yourself up for prep in your off season, you're probably going to have a much easier time with the hunger too. But at the end of the day, you're going to get hungry. That's part of the process. You're in a deficit. Your body's like, give me food. You know what I mean? Like, and you're not giving it the food because you need to bring down the body fat. So, best thing I can say is if you're working on a macros plan, make sure that you're eating food that's higher in volume so you feel fuller. Make sure you keep your water intake up, things like that. One thing that I cut during my prep was like water flavorings quite a bit, because for me that would actually incite more hunger, so taking out the water flavorings helps me to get rid of that. Anything sweet would really make me want more food. So I just made sure I knew what my triggers were as far as my hunger was concerned too. So if you have certain foods that are really palatable and they make you hungrier, get rid of them, that kind of thing. So, but I mean, at the end of the day, you're going to be hungry.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, especially 5 weeks out, things are changing so much at that point. Like your body's literally changing every day. You should be burning a lot of fat right now. Hunger it's a part of the process. It's not something that you can really wiggle around. I tell my athletes, when you're hungry, embrace it, embrace the suck. It's working at that point. If you're full 5 weeks out, you're either reversing into the show because you're more than ready, or you're probably not lean enough. Right. So embrace it. And then just second to what Sean said is like looking at food sources, like if you're just trying to fit in like, nut butter because it's, what you want, probably the foods that you want right now are not what you need right now. So really being conscious of, slower carb sources, like maybe if you have white rice in your plan, that's very quick absorbing, carb, maybe switching to something a little bit slower digestion, like a white potato, right? So just kind of really being mindful of your food choices and obviously if you're on a meal plan, talking to your coach about that so they can make those for you. But at the end of the day, like, this is a part of the sport. This is why not a lot of people can get through this. So you have to kind of almost trick yourself and tell yourself, like, I can do this.
Yeah.
This is, this is where people, this is where the champion rises, who
Yeah.
can get through the starving, who can get through the hunger, and, really stay disciplined.
And at the end of the day, if you're hungry, go take a nap. Then you
Go
can't
take
be
a
hungry
walk.
when you're asleep, right? Yeah.
Go take
So
a walk.
it's like, and that goes back to the environment thing too. Keep your environment free of anything that would be, like I said, palatable, something that you want to eat. So if it's just the same basic clean foods, you're probably not going to crave it. So keep that shit out of your house, and you'll be fine with that too. But it's just being, like you said, it's just being in control of as much stuff as you can. But at the end of the day, embrace the suck.
Embrace the suck. All right, we're going to do one more because Adair is here picking me up.
Okay.
Let's do a good one. Okay. How would you prep your younger self for her first show? What would be your best tips?
Well, the thing about your first show is that you don't know what you don't know, right? So I never felt like my first prep was difficult or anything like that. So when I look back on it, I was on macros. I didn't realize, like, back in the day, I had a spreadsheet and I just filled in the stuff. I didn't know what macros back then. We didn't know what macros were, but I was on macros. So I mean, the only thing I would say is that I did a lot of cardio, and so I probably would not have done quite that much. But I also only prepped for 6 weeks for my first show too, so there was that. So I don't know. As far as what I did for my first show, I don't think I would change anything, that because again, you don't know what you don't know. But what I probably would have said at that point was, you're not ready to go into a prep, go into an improvement season.
That's what I was
probably
gonna say.
it. Yeah,
Like, you're coming from like a hindsight 2020.
Yeah.
I did the same thing. I popped into the sport and just went in right into a prep. I would just tell myself, like, don't go into a prep right now. Like, go into an off season. And that's why I am the type of coach where, like, if I take you on, I tell you, like, I want to take you through an off season. Number one, that's where we thrive. That's where we grow. That's where we get better. And number two, like, that just gives me more time as a coach to make sure that you're healthy and that we do have a smooth ass prep. Like, that's bottom line, So like, I was on 2.5 hours of cardio a day. My first prep, I got to sub 1,000 calories a day because I didn't take time and I didn't have the muscle. So take time in the beginning to take an off season. Stage is not going anywhere. You could even take like a little improvement season. 3 months is better than just hopping into a contest.
Yeah.
Any time that you have to prepare your body is best.
Yeah. And, and at the same time too, though, like I said, I don't think I would really take that back, because it's also what made me fall in love with the sport too, So yeah, you can look back and say, oh, I wish I'd done this better or that better or whatever. But really, you go through those things to put you into the place where you are today. So I don't think I really regret any of those decisions that I made.
Me neither.
When I look back on it, when I look back on it now, like, I'd probably, if I had the choice, I would probably just do it the same way again. It was probably, once I got into the sport, there was a lot of things that I would change. But that first show, sometimes you just got to fuck up your first show, or just get on stage, just fucking do it at some point, and then adjust from there too, because you just don't know what you don't know.
Right. Did I enjoy doing 2 hours to 2.5 hours of cardio a day?
Yeah.
No, but looking back on that, those preps made me the most proud, because I did it. I pushed myself to an unbelievable distance that I never thought was possible. And those first 2 years were the hardest preps I would have ever done, and it makes me appreciate now where I'm at as an athlete, and that I never have to do that kind of prep again. But when I think back to that, and that grit and that determination, like, we talk about bodybuilding off stage, those are the moments that build you as an individual in bodybuilding off stage. Like making, that's what makes you the type A and gets you really proficient with scheduling and makes you really proficient with like prepping and meal prepping. And like, it just makes you a better human and athlete all around when you have to go through something that's strenuous,
Absolutely.
So those are the preps that I'm most proud of, because of the grit and determination that was needed to thrive, So I agree with you. Like, is it ideal to do that? No, but it did shape me as a person and as an athlete, and it showed me relentlessness. And, from there, if you could do that, you could do anything. If you could do 2.5 hours of cardio a day for that long, you literally can do anything. So,
well, it's that saying that you can't appreciate the good without the bad, So you kind of need, like I say that all the time, like, I wish I had met Jamie earlier, than when I did. But at the same time, it may not have had as much of an impact because I didn't have those experiences with the bad coaching before. You know
Yeah,
what I
wow. It's
mean?
a good
So
point. It's a really good point.
it's it's sometimes you have to go through that crap in order to find the good pieces, and to really appreciate where you are.
Yeah.
And that's why I
I
said
never
like
thought about it that way.
yeah, like I appreciate, I know that regardless of what my outcome is on stage, I know that Jamie's the best coach for me. You know what I mean? I know she's doing the best job she possibly can. And that's all I want from a coach. I tell people all the time, I'm like, all you want from a coach is somebody who cares that about what you put up there, what you want, that kind of thing, that gives you their all, because they can't control anything else. All they can control is what they do for you, and if you feel like they're doing that for you, then that's the best solution, right? And again, going back to I had some shitty coaches, and I know the difference. I know the difference. So does it suck to have to go through that situation? Sure. It absolutely sucked having to go through that situation, but like I said, I appreciate where I am now because of it.
Yeah, and just, keeping in mind too, like not every coach is for everybody, right?
Right.
So it's like,
That's right.
probably your first
Yeah.
coach is not going to be the one you're going to have your entire career with. And I know people are like, but that's just kind of the reality. A lot of us start with, smaller coaches in the beginning that kind of take us as far as they can. And right, wrong, or indifferent in their practices, we get to a point where we've outgrown them, or, we need
Right.
a change. And um, my first coach wasn't bad in any way. Was it the right thing for me to progress? No, which is why I ended up with Jamie, right? And I know for sure at the end of the day, like I'm going to retire with Jamie as my coach. But, just knowing that it's going to take time for you to kind of find the one for you and that you really gel with. Coaching is so much more than just putting a plan on paper and hoping that you
100%.
execute it. It's the person that knows how to push you. Some people really need like really tough guidance. Some people really need the hand holding where other coaches don't provide that. Some people really need like the understanding and, the emotional side of it.
Yeah.
And a lot of coaches can't do that too. So it's really just kind of like finding those personality traits that kind of you gel with. And, nothing is more powerful than finding that coach and that athlete where like the key fits the lock perfectly.
Yes.
And the possibilities are endless, when you
Right.
find that good coaching relationship.
But I think also sometimes the grass is greener concept. Like I've had several times where girls leave me and go someplace else and then they come back. Like they realize, oh, she actually did know what she was doing or had my best interest at heart. I have it happen all the time. And it's not, I've only been coaching with Fit Body for a couple of years now, but like with the posing and stuff like that too. I have girls that will compete for a few years and then stop and then come back competing again and come back to me, So as a coach too, like we have to stick to what we're true to because we know that again, if we're good coaches, we know that that's the best thing that we can do for that person and let them go explore. Maybe they need to go do that again to appreciate you when they come back.
Yeah.
So, we all have to kind of go. It's like if you love something, set it free, right? So let them go find it, figure it out. See, maybe they will find a better fit, but if they don't, be open to bringing them back.
No, I don't mind. I don't mind when people leave and then
Yeah,
come back. Like it's okay to go experience something
yeah,
new so that you're not questioning and at the end of the day, like what is for you, I don't look at it as a slap in the face at all. I look at it as putting tools in the toolbox,
that's right.
and you're coming back to me eventually, right?
Yep.
So, where your heart lies. But yeah, I think it's really important. I think people, get stuck in a way. They feel stuck in their situation. We were talking about the job thing a couple of minutes ago. It's basically the same. If you feel like you're not getting what you need out of any kind of experience in life, I think it's really important to go find new experiences. And you may find that you end up right where you are. But if you're always questioning and you don't know, you're always going to have that wonder and that thought never really be truly settled in where you think you want to be. So, it's okay to play. It's okay to explore, and it's definitely okay to express what you want, what your needs are. As women, we silence ourselves a lot and we silently suffer, and we just accept, you know, anything less than what we deserve. And so if you take anything away from this today, like go out there, like get what you want, like, and
Hmm.
it's okay to make changes and change your mind and all of those
Yeah.
things. And you should have a coach that supports you in that for sure.
Well, and your goals may change. We just talked about the girls that have won pro cards in 2 divisions. If you change your mind and want to go to a different division, you may need a different coach for that. So
Yeah.
being open to that kind of thing. And then when you're over there, you may think, actually, I don't want to do this. I want to go back to where I was. And you may go back to your coach. You know what I mean? Like we always talk about, we have our specialties, we have our things that we really gravitate towards. So it could be a situation like that too, where that athlete just decides maybe they want to go to figure or women's physique, and we don't coach that. So, go do that. And then they realize they don't actually want to do that, and they want to go back to bikini or whatever it might be. So that's also a thing too. So just be open to that kind of stuff too. And like you said, make the changes, be open, have fun. Like there's nothing saying that you have to do it a certain way. If your goals change, it's cool.
Yeah, I think that social media has really affected this because I feel like people feel like they owe an explanation to people a lot on like the choices that they make because we all share so much of our life on social media. So what I usually say is like if you were to make this decision right now with the world not watching you, what does your heart tell you to do? Right?
Yes.
Like that, and that's what you have to like really ask yourself at the end of the day. I know that I catch myself a lot of like I want to make this decision or I want to make this move, and the first thing I think of is like what is my team gonna think? What are my friends gonna think? You know what I mean? And it's like while I love them and I respect their opinion, like what do I want at the end of the day, And
Yep.
I think that makes it really hard because we all feel really judged and seen. And again, like social media is really great for that, but it also is not good for that thing. So yeah, if you're struggling with that, like just ask yourself, like, if nobody was watching me, nobody knew what this decision was, like, what would I say right now? What would that decision be? And like, that's where you kind of have to lean in and like trust your gut on that.
That's right. And we were talking about that earlier. Like that's a big thing. Like we're a luxury, coaching is a luxury. So if that's something that you can't afford right now or something, you have to make that decision. You know what I mean? We're not going to judge you for that. Your friends and family are not going to judge you for the decisions you made. And then also, I was just talking about this the other day too. We're all going to die. Nobody's going to remember us anyway. Like, we were talking about like Michael Jackson and stuff like that, Michael Jordan, all of them. They're phenomenal people, athletes, musicians, whatever. But when they pass away, we may think about them like once when somebody opens up like a history book or something like that. But they're the greatest of all time at what they do. And they're literally just a footnote in history. So nobody gives a shit. Do you? You know what I mean? Do what's going to make you happy, with the caveat of don't hurt anybody in the process. You know what I mean? But that should go without saying.
Efficiency, but totally what you want to do.
Yeah, right. So don't hurt anyone in the process, but do what you fucking want to do. You only got one life. Go live it. That's it. Whatever is in your heart, whatever is your goal, whatever you are dreaming for, go fucking after it. Who gives a shit what anybody else thinks? Just do it.
I agree.
That's a good place to end it, I think.
Yes. Adair is here to pick me up, to take me to my next appointment.
I love it. I know. As soon as I get off this, I've got to go do client check-ins. And actually, I'm meeting with Danielle, one of your clients, for her posing session before I go down there.
She's posing she's competing at CP Pro. So
yes, she is. Yes. That's a good example of somebody who competed for a while and then stopped and then came back. And look at her now. Yeah, look at her now. So yeah, absolutely. So that's gonna be fun. So I got to see her in a little bit, and then got my webinar later, and then I fly out tonight. I got to pack. I haven't packed, but I don't have to go to the airport till like my flight leaves at 11, so I don't have to leave till like 9 or something like that to go to the airport. So I got time.
I'm gonna be way hopefully asleep by then. I haven't slept in I can't even tell you how long. So
I'm debating.
I'll see you tomorrow afternoon. Probably.
I know. I'm debating if I want to try and take a nap before I go to the airport. I don't know if it's going to happen or not. I might just try to power through. Yeah, I think I might just try to power through and then just pass out on the plane. I think that's what I'm going to probably do. So we'll see.
Good luck.
Thank you. I'll see you tomorrow at some point. I know. I'll see you tomorrow at some point. So we'll figure it out. But with that said, thank you guys so much for all of your questions. We have a ton more. I know you sent them all to me. There's a bunch of them. So maybe we'll have to do another one of these too. But yeah, I'll see you in Tampa. And yeah. And then for everybody else, like, comment, subscribe, like we said before, hit those buttons wherever they are. And for episode 96, that's what we said, right? 96?
Yes.
96 behind the bikini. We are out. Bye, guys.
Bye.